So if you go onto the McDonald's website, it'll say that it started in 1954 with one man named Ray Kroc. But the reality of that story is that it's not true. McDonald's started here in 1940. And so we're going to take a look about the history of McDonald's and see the real history of McDonald's. The site of the original McDonald's in 1940, founded by Richard and Maurice McDonald, who were the original creators of McDonald's. There's a bunch of McDonald's playground toys here. I remember those from the 80s. Those were very popular. It's kind of crazy to see how small they are today, but I remember this Officer Big Mac Jungle Gym thing to be huge when I was a kid, but it's obviously just small. I also remember people used to get stuck in it all the time. Here you can see the first McDonald's. Back then it was 15 cents in 1940. It was a car hop service back in 1940 with female waitresses. But the problem there was with the female waitresses, it attracted a lot of young men. And so the McDonald's brothers didn't like that too much. So they changed it quickly to a speed service. It was drive in, drive out speed service. So you'd get your hamburgers by the bag is how they would sell them back then. And so that brought a lot of interest, and that quick turn through is what really brought McDonald's into what it is today. It was a speedy place. In fact, the early signage, you'll see that it says Speedy McDonald's on it. Here we can see a mural of Richard and Maurice McDonald, the original two founders of McDonald's. Originally, the concept was going to be a barbecue, but it turned out that the hamburgers were more popular, so they quickly just changed it to McDonald's, and it was just hamburgers only. That happened really quick in the first year. So let's go check it out. We're gonna go inside the museum. This museum is actually owned by Juan Pollo, which is another Southern California original. So we'll go check that out. So inside here, there's lots of memorabilia. Of course, you have the Happy Meals. I like the pictures. You have the pictures from Pioneer Day 1942. They have a menu from the original barbecue menu back when they served barbecue on there. And then from 1946, looks like there they still had the female car hop service. But then in 1948, it says here that they closed for remodeling, and when they came back up in 1949, at that point it came with a very trimmed down menu. That's where you see the 15-cent hamburger menu. So it was at that point that they were just mostly serving hamburgers. Very interesting looking at some of the old employees here, some old employee photos. The original orange juice machine, how they would squeeze orange juice back in the day. A lot of this automated equipment came from Ray Kroc, who was one of the early partners and eventually took over the McDonald's Corporation in the 1950s. And that's what I think you get from corporate, is that one-man story. But here you can see there was a lot of people that were involved in the McDonald's story. There's 1954, Ray Kroc's first McDonald's in Des Plaines, Illinois. If you go to the official corporation, and that's the official museum out in Des Plaines, Illinois, that's where they want the history to start, but it actually started here in San Bernardino. Happy Meal toys in here. Just over the years, people collected them. Some are worth a lot, some are worth nothing, but it's just interesting to see that they're all still here. Display here of celebrities who have visited this museum. It looks like we have Dustin Hoffman, we have Jay Leno who has visited, Jack Black, Kevin Smith, Rachel McAdams, Keenan Wayans, and Andy McDowell, to name a few people that have visited this museum here in San Bernardino. In 2016, they made the movie The Founder, which is a movie about McDonald's, and they brought in some of the memorabilia from that movie. So they recreated some of the first McDonald's scenes there. You can see the cast sign, this bag here, and this hat, and then there's the shirt from the movie The Founder. Very interesting movie about the history of McDonald's there. It says here in 1961, Ray Kroc bought McDonald's for $2.7 million. He thought he bought all of the properties, but he did not buy this property, which is the museum, and he also didn't buy the original McDonald's here. So what happened is, in 1961, when Ray Kroc bought McDonald's, this property, which is now the museum, was still operating, and there was still 7 other McDonald's properties that were not under Ray Kroc's control that he tried to gain control of, but he didn't. So what he did is he opened up another McDonald's just a block away from here in 1962, and he used that one to, it was over on 15th and E Street, and he tried to use that McDonald's to close down this one, which he was eventually successful in doing, and eventually this property went to the wayside too, but it looks like they recovered some tiles from it, so that was kind of interesting. They found that in the basement here, some old French fryers and some old tiles from the McDonald's on 15th and McDonald's now is in 120 different countries, well, 119 if you don't want to count the Russian one anymore. McDonald's, the different food and the different items. I've been around the world, and it's always interesting to see how the food is the same, but yet it's different. Like here you can see the big jalapeno in Germany, or over here in their Happy Meal toys, of course they're going to get speed trains because that's what Japan's famous for. So depending on the different McDonald's that you go to, you're definitely going to see some different items. I remember when I was in Japan, one of the interesting things there was the shrimp burger. That was very different. Most of the museum here seems to be showcasing different people's McDonald's toys collection. I guess that's the most popular thing for people to do, is collect McDonald's toys, and there's lots of them. I find this kind of interesting. This is when they used to have all the burgers in foam. I remember that from the 80s. Of course, that was abolished for ecological reasons. Here's something in season today. Some of the original McDonald's trick-or-treat buckets. The trick-or-treat buckets would come with the Happy Meal, and that was the treat itself. You can see the original 3 Happy Meal trick-or-treat buckets there. It's kind of interesting. You don't see the Happy Meal box that much. That was usually just thrown away. So it's kind of cool to see. I remember back in the 80s, the Happy Meal boxes were nice because they had cartoons and jokes on them and cutouts. So it's very rare that you see these Happy Meal boxes still preserved after all these years. Those were usually the first things that were thrown away before even the toys. Early Grimace costume there, and an early McDonald's uniform. Remember these McDonald's had a tank on the bottom of them, and then through Ronald McDonald's mouth you could blow up your balloon. That's how you would blow up a balloon back in the day. Lots of styrofoam containers here. They have the hot cakes, the hot breakfast. They have the generic McDonald's hamburger, the Egg McMuffin. They have the Filet-O-Fish. They have the Big Mac. Those are something that you don't see that much these days. Oh, I also remember. So apparently somebody has covered a bunch of McDonald's food in kind of polyurethane and resin to preserve them forever. So you can see what they look like, I guess, forever. That's kind of interesting way to preserve your food. A lot of old toys here from McDonald's playgrounds. Now, as I said, here in San Bernardino, this was the location of the first McDonald's restaurant. But Ray Kroc ran this store out of business. Ray Kroc wanted all of the McDonald's to look the same, but there was 7 other stores that went up before Ray Kroc took over the business in 1961. Most of those 7 stores are no longer in existence, but 2 of the original stores are still in operation. One in San Jose, California, and the oldest operating McDonald's is still in California. It is actually in Downey, California, and it was opened in 1953, and this is an amazing place to visit, and it is registered as a state historical site, actually. This is the 3rd franchise location after the 1948 original location that we just visited in San Bernardino, California. Here you can see the arch, the golden arches. The golden arches started with the 2nd McDonald's. Here on the 3rd one. Now, over where we were in San Bernardino, you didn't see any golden arches there because it wasn't owned by Ray Kroc. and he ordered the McDonald brothers to take it down when he took over the restaurants in 1961. This restaurant was also a franchise, was not originally franchised to Ray Kroc. He bought it later. It was actually franchised to the McDonald's brother-in-law, and so that's why this one is a little bit unique from all the other McDonald's that you see. The menu here, it looks like the same as every other McDonald's, which is kind of interesting because when this McDonald's first opened, it wasn't a corporate McDonald's, and therefore it didn't have a lot of the things that other McDonald's had. For example, it didn't have Big Macs, and it didn't have shakes because those were part of corporate Big Mac. But of course now, since it is a corporate location, it does have all the traditional McDonald's food. Interesting here, this old soda dispenser. I wonder if this barrel was for root beer, but it looks like it had multiple sodas on it, so just kind of interesting. This was a corporate store, but I just read the sign over there and I read that this store is owned by Ron Piazza, so that makes this definitely a franchise store. Ron Piazza is an interesting store owner. He actually started working for McDonald's when he was 15 or 16, I believe, and worked up through the corporate ranks, and now he owns like 10 McDonald's. So just kind of an interesting story there about Ron Piazza and how he worked his way up through McDonald's. So very interesting, that story as well. In the area where you can eat your food is a little McDonald's museum with lots of interesting relics from McDonald's past. So it looks like this was an original serving area, and they have some original uniforms there, similar to the ones that we saw over at the first McDonald's, but a little bit different. We got Ray Kroc's book, Grinding It Out, The Making of McDonald's. Interesting museum here. We can check it out. It says these are the original doors from the first hamburger university in Illinois. There's a picture of Ray Kroc, and of course what made him famous was his multi-mixer, making his shakes. That's how he first discovered McDonald's, was by selling those to the McDonald's brothers.
Fast cars with tail fins that look like they could fly, and speed in terms of getting what you want when you wanted it.
So we knew we had to do something to speed things up.
The McDonald's closed their successful drive-in and set out to reinvent the restaurant business.
One of Ray Kroc's things was conformity. He wanted every McDonald's to operate exactly the same and have the exact same menu. He did that by creating a meticulous operating manual. It was the first of its kind.
Burgers had to be exactly 1.6 ounces, served with a quarter ounce of onion, a teaspoon of mustard, and a tablespoon of ketchup. Fries had to be cut at 9/32 of an inch thick. The manual even specified how often the restaurant needed to be stationed.
Any other way would be building on a marshy foundation that could collapse at any time.
Ray Kroc was successful.
The original menu was pared down even further than the original McDonald's brothers menu to only 9 items. These 9 items would ensure that everything in McDonald's would be quick and speedy. In 1986, Mac Tonight was introduced in the Los Angeles TV market by the McDonald's operators of Southern California and the DVC Advertising. He was designed to help promote dinner as an eating occasion at McDonald's in the mid-90s. McDonald's introduced him to their national advertising. This was one of the very first costumes that was ever used. Kind of looks like David Letterman if he had a moon head. That's what he reminds me of. And here we are at a new McDonald's. So the story after the McDonald's brothers sold out in 1961, basically the sale price was $2.7 million, $1 million for each of the McDonald brothers, plus $700,000 to pay for the taxes. After that, it was all Ray Kroc's vision. He took down all but 3 original franchise stores, and we just took you to 2 of those locations. So I hope you enjoy the adventure, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for coming along.